Hi, my name is Phoebe Eclair-Powell and I am a playwright. I didn't actually know that I wanted to be a writer. I thought that the only way of getting into theatre was by acting. So I did a foundation course at a drama school that actually no longer exists, called Drama Centre. But whilst I was there, I realised that actually I'm a really bad actor and very self-conscious, and that I was more interested in just plays in general and reading them and putting them on, and I kind of maybe thought I wanted to be a director. I then went to university where, again, I did not write. I just put on plays or was involved with kind of the theatre group and just loved it in all its forms. And I think for me, it wasn't until I was a bit older and I was very jealous of a friend of mine getting onto the Royal Court Young Writers Scheme that I realised that if I wanted to do that, I had to write a play. And it just sort of flew out of me a little bit. And that was the beginning, really. And that I did get onto the Royal Court Young Writers, and that gave me so much confidence, and I met other writers, and I think just being around people who could teach me what that was invaluable. So yeah, it wasn't a given, it wasn't something that I grew up always wanting to be, but it's something that felt so right when I found it. I think I was very lucky in that when I was coming up as a writer in London, there were a lot of really great opportunities that don't exist now. For instance, Ideas Tap. There were short writing nights at every single venue all of the time. And a lot of my peers were putting on those short writing nights, and it just felt like, I don't know, there was a positivity and a charge in the air where people were being generous with their time and their space. So I think I was very lucky in that it was a slightly different climate. I think there is a huge difference between then and now. I took stuff up to Edinburgh Festival back in the day when it was affordable. I wouldn't dream of doing that now. I think it's a really a difficult time. I think we're hearing a lot of negative stuff about theatre venues, money, about their ability to take risks on new writing. It feels nerve-wracking, but I think that you can't stop people from telling stories. I think things come in waves. I think we have to ride this particular wave out and keep our belief and keep firm that we have stories to tell and they're important to tell them. I suppose I am interested in telling stories, mainly focusing on female-oriented stories, on mental health, identity, loneliness is a really big theme, and lots of my plays. However, I like to think that I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, and that I've written, for instance, like kids stuff and for youth theatre and adaptations of historical novels, but always trying to give them something modern and quirky and eccentric and exciting, and always trying to think about why they need to be told now. I think theatre takes you by the scruff of the neck and sort of punches you in the face because it's live, and that is the point of it. The point is that you are sort of speaking to the audience directly, and I think that ritual of actor, performer and audience is just like this primeval, exciting, very physical, visceral thing. And I think therefore you can sort of twist people's emotions and hearts and heads. And I think that the theatre is often a safe space for people who do want to feel heard and seen and want to see something of their lives sort of mirrored back to them. And I think that we are all these strange little atoms floating around, and what's so beautiful about theatre is that sometimes you can just hear or see something that makes you feel part of the world, and that we're not all so distant, and that it's kind of these brief moments of togetherness that actually make humanity kind of brilliant and excellent and worth vouching for. There's a family of people that I make theatre with as well who make me feel truly kind of seen and accepted, and I think that there's nothing better than finding a building where you feel very at home and you see work that makes you feel kind of valued and excited or inspired. I actually really love a one-person show and a monologue, and I know that is sometimes a reaction to costs and the fact that it is something that is more doable. But I myself have written quite a few one-person shows, and I just bloody love them. I love a monologue. I hate the fact that once you have a kid, it's really hard to see theatre because it is at a really difficult time, 7:30 p.m. And the prices, the fact that actually, if you want to go and see something now, I don't know why, it feels, and I'm sure it has, like it's all become way more expensive. And a night seeing a show you've got to really think about whether you can afford to do that anymore. Really big and really loud. It was inspired by the times we live in. So it was an interesting time where young people were protesting quite a lot about climate change, and there was that amazing movement of kids kind of being at the forefront of protest and politics, and it felt like I wanted to write something about a little girl who isn't sure about how to use her voice and what does being really big and really loud mean. And I think it was the time of Trump. It was a time of bombastic sort of people in charge, and if you're loud, are you automatically right? Writing for a younger audience was such a huge challenge, and it was really, really fun. But I think that, like the rest of the theatre hierarchy, I maybe myself didn't think it would be as hard as it was, because I think that some people do look down on theatre for young audiences. I think that there is a slight sense that it's just telling any kind of story and kids will lap it up. And trust me, that is not the case, because kids are the most vocal of audiences and will let you know within seconds if they don't like something. And actually, I found it the hardest play to write. I really loved writing really big and really loud, but it was an absolute challenge. And I'm really glad of the challenge, because when I saw the audience filing in and all those kids and their excitement, and where they just were jumping up in their seats and singing songs, it actually was the best theatre experience I've really had, because it was the time where I really felt I could see the honesty in the audience, and people weren't just pretending or being on their best behaviour. We need to make sure, those shows are affordable, but we also need to make sure that that is something that every theatre offers, so that every kid all over the UK can watch stuff and be inspired and be told a story and feel the magic. So one of Payne's Pal's kind of mission statements being to tour across the country, I think is so important in, again, a theatre ecology that is very London-centric and really obsessed with sort of being in the capital, and that it's all about sort of preaching to the choir and just basically being for people who already work within theatre. And I just love that, like, actually, you know, we went everywhere with that lovely roundabout. We were in this kind of car park in a leisure centre in Coventry, and that was really unique and beautiful, because it was like, yeah, this is just putting on a show for whoever right in this community wants to see it and needs it. I think new writing is vital alongside, obviously, the blockbusters and the big revivals that are kind of going to get lots of bums on seats. But I think new writing can also put a lot of bums on seats. I think that new writing, you know, there was nothing bigger than Fleabag. You know, that's new writing. So I think it's just about trends, and at the moment maybe it's not seen as the trendiest, but actually it's always glorious and very cool and edgy and dynamic and unique. So I think theatres are being a little bit shooting themselves possibly in the foot if they don't champion and continue to fund and look for new writing, because actually I think that's where everyone gets really excited about the next big thing, and that's where you get your next Shakespeare and your next revival and your next big classic for this modern era. So I think it's a little short-sighted, because every play was a new play once. So there you go. Sustaining a career as a playwright is a tricky one, and I'll be really honest and say that the reason I can afford to be a playwright is not just the privilege of my background and where I come from, but also because I work in TV and have done for a couple of years now. And I worked in soaps as well, which is a lovely kind of more steady income in TV, because I won't pretend that TV is like a constant, you know, you're still hustling, you're still being a freelancer in that world, and not everything works out. But it definitely does pay you, it pays for me to write plays and to put my son in childcare, which allows me time to be creative. So I think it's really, really difficult now to sustain a living just as a playwright. And I think it is important to be really, really upfront about pay, how much they're paid, what commissions are worth, how long those commissions take. I think there just needs to be way more transparency across the industry. I think for any playwright who is starting out in this industry, it's about being really clever about who you are and what other talents you have and where else how you can make work in a myriad of ways. There's not just one way to tell a story, basically.